Police release video of Congressional Intern's murder. I want to tell you about a story that still chills me every time I think about it. A story that feels less like a headline from Washington, D.C., and more like a nightmare you can't wake up from. It happened just this past week. The city was alive with its usual noise, traffic echoing down narrow streets, laughter and voices spilling out from restaurants, and fireworks already popping early in the distance as people prepared for the 4th of July holiday. But beneath all of that, there was another sound. The sound of fear that you could feel if you stayed in the streets too long. Washington, D.C. has always had its shadows. I've walked those streets at night, and I can tell you, the further you get from the well-lit monuments, the more the city feels like it's holding its breath. The Shaw neighborhood is one of those places. At night, the corners look darker than they should, and the alleys feel like they're watching you. On Monday night, around 10:30 p.m., a young man named Eric Tarpinian-Jachym was walking there. He was just 21 years old, a student from the University of Massachusetts at Amherst, a finance major, a rising senior, a congressional intern working for Representative Ron Estes of Kansas. He wasn't supposed to die that night. Eric wasn't the type of person who got into trouble. Everyone who knew him said he had a kind smile, a warm greeting for anyone who walked into his office, and a future that was already taking shape. He dreamed of a career in finance. He wanted to do something meaningful. He wanted to live, but instead, his life was stolen on that corner. Police say several people jumped out of a car near the Walter E. Washington Convention Center. They didn't hesitate. They didn't even give their victims a chance to understand what was happening. They just raised their guns and opened fire. The sound of those shots ripped through the neighborhood. Panicked screams, people running, tires screeching as cars tried to escape. Eric never had a chance. He wasn't the target. He wasn't part of the fight. The police later confirmed it. He and a woman who was also shot were innocent bystanders, just standing in the wrong place at the wrong time as bullets ripped through the summer night. The teenager who was also shot that night, a 16-year-old boy, was believed to be involved in some earlier altercation. But Eric? Number. He was just there, walking, breathing, living, and then bleeding. When officers heard the gunfire, they ran toward it. They found Eric lying there, along with the woman and the boy. All of them rushed to hospitals, but Eric's wounds were too severe. By Tuesday, he was gone. The 85th homicide in Washington, D.C. this year. But what makes this story even more horrifying is the video. Yes, there's a recording of the shooting. A security camera caught it. But the footage is grainy, blurry, distorted by shadows and low light. You can barely make out shapes, ghostly figures moving in and out of focus, people collapsing, muzzle flashes, bright and violent in the darkness. DC's police chief, Pamela Smith, admitted it. Right now it's really grainy. So they brought in the FBI to enhance it, to sharpen those shadows into faces, to drag the killers out of the darkness. But here's the part that makes my skin crawl. Even before the footage is cleaned up, you can see enough. You can see the fear. You can see the chaos. And you can see Eric's last moments as he falls to the ground, caught in a storm of violence that was never meant for him. I keep thinking about that. The way a camera can capture death, hold it frozen forever. How many times will investigators watch those frames, trying to make out the details? How many people will see Eric's last seconds on repeat, pixelated and blurred, like a ghost replaying the same nightmare? Some say grainy video is worse than clear video, because your mind fills in the blanks. You imagine faces where there are none. You picture the killers lurking in every shadow. You convince yourself that you see eyes staring right at you through the distortion. And in a way, maybe you do. Because whoever those people are, the ones who got out of that car with guns, they're still out there, breathing, walking, watching. Maybe they'll never be caught. Eric's friends describe him as the kind of person you'd want to share a smile with, someone who made you feel seen. His colleagues in the congressman's office remember his cheerful greetings, the kind words he had for strangers. His family is broken. His mother couldn't even speak through her tears. Now think about that contrast. The light of someone like Eric against the grainy darkness of that footage. Life cut short. Promise erased. This isn't the first time something like this has happened in Washington. Over the past few years, staffers, interns, and even senior officials have found themselves the victims of brutal crimes. A carjacking, a stabbing, random violence that feels anything but random. Some say it's proof that the nation's capital is broken. Some even call for stripping away DC's right to govern itself, blaming the city's leaders for the blood on the streets. But for me, it's not politics that sticks. It's the horror of that moment. Imagine walking through a city you thought was safe. Imagine being 21, full of life, with your whole future ahead of you. Imagine turning a corner and hearing the screech of tires, doors opening, boots hitting pavement, and then gunfire. It's chaos. It's thunder. It's the kind of sound that rips apart your thoughts. And when it's over, silence. Broken only by the ringing in your ears and the sound of your own breath, if you're lucky enough to still be breathing. Eric wasn't lucky. Now his name is etched into the grim list of DC's homicides. Number 85. Another tally in a year of blood. But here's the truth that makes this story feel more like horror than news. Somewhere out there, the killers are still walking free. And the only clue we have is a blurry video. A video that can't quite tell the truth. A video that hides as much as it reveals. What really happened in those frames? Who are the shadows that stepped out of that car? Will they ever be caught? Or will they vanish back into the city's darkness, faceless, nameless, as if they were never there at all? And when you think about that, when you watch that video in your head, you realize the scariest part. It could happen to anyone. You, me, a stranger passing by. One moment, you're living your life. The next, you're just another story. Another blurred face in a grainy recording. Another voice lost in the chaos of gunfire. That's the horror of Eric Tarpinian-Jachym's final night. And it's a horror that Washington, D.C., and all of us may never be able to escape.